What is up, Packers fans? Happy Saturday. Welcome in to an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. Thank you, as always, for being here. I hope your weekend is treating you well. We are going to bring you epic Packers conversation 365 days a year, and today, of course, is no different. Really excited to jump into today's episode. Before we get there, Christian Watson posted some video of him working out. I'm going to tell you flat out, I am not a doctor. I have no idea. It seems good. It looked like he was running well out there. Just being able to do some like rounded off cutting, if you will, just some route running, things like that. To me, looked good. We heard from Matt LaFleur more specifically at the end of minicamp that he is ahead of schedule. So those are all very good signs. There are a lot of doctors in the comments, apparently, because they know exactly if that's a good thing, if he's on schedule, or if it's a bad thing. I don't know. To me, it looked good. What I will say is in the past, when David Bakhtiari was coming off of his ACL injury for the first time, there were times in that rehab period where he looked good. He looked like he was moving around really well. And we know how that went. I'm never one to jump to conclusions on any of this as much as I possibly can with a time frame that is. So even if he looks unbelievable right now, which to me, the naked eye, he looked really, really good. But even if that is the case, I try to temper expectations as best as I can because we just don't know when it's actually going to be, fully healed and when he's going to have that mental capacity, that confidence in it mentally to go out there and do the things that he needs to do. It's one thing to be out there running and jogging. It's another to do it at full pace, cutting on a dime on an NFL field when you need to. So looks great. I'm super excited for him. I hope everything is at or ahead of schedule and that he can get back as soon as possible. I know he's not going to rush it. I know the Packers are not going to rush it. Saw some concern of is he trying to do too? He'll take his time. This is his one chance, right? At making sure that he gets back healthy and that he can go on to have a long NFL career. And this is his opportunity to get a big paycheck down the road. Not by coming back early and then re-injuring himself, by making sure he's healthy. Even if you have to take a 1 year, sort of less contract to then be perfectly healthy next year and go out and prove yourself, he can certainly do that as well. But the great sign is that, he looked good, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come for Christian, and he can get back healthy, near or at 100% of what he was, and hopefully tearing it up whenever that point in time comes when he is able to return to the football field. It's the only piece of news or notes that I've got for you today. So I hope you will enjoy this journey that we're about to go on. Just kind of using our imagination a little bit. It's a fun episode that I do every single year, just going over some of the unique formations, personnel groupings, all of that stuff that I think both the offense and defense can use. Again, 7 on offense, 7 on defense, and we're going to jump into it. Some of these will get used, I'm sure, through the course of the season. Some might never get used. I just think it's fun to look at some of these packages and personnel groupings and formations and how you could utilize some of these different players. Some of these are going to be predicated on some new players that are on the team. Some of them are just fun to think about. Others, again, they may never get utilized, but we're going to go through them nonetheless. All right, we're going to start with number 1 on offense, and it is a good old-fashioned 12 personnel package. There is nothing super out of the ordinary here. This is kind of just a very basic one, but one that we are really hoping can unlock this offense in a real way moving forward and just bring something a little bit different and more dynamic to the table. And that a 12 personnel package is a running back, 2 tight ends, and 2 wide receivers. Again, very basic. Josh Jacobs at running back, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave at tight ends. I would put Dontavian Wicks as one of the receivers because I think he's a really good run blocker, and more on that in just a moment. I'm going to love Christian Watson out there as well if we can eventually get to that point. If not, you could be a Matthew Golden just to have that speed element as well. So put whatever wide receiver, other wide receiver that you want out there. But the reason that I love this personnel grouping for Green Bay, again, Jacobs, Kraft, Musgrave, Wicks, and pick another wide receiver, is because I think there are so many different things that you can do with it. And more specifically, you can dictate based on what the opposing defense decides to play against you. In its simplest terms, you come out with a running back, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. The defense has an opportunity or an option of how they want to play against you. And a lot of times, you go in a 12 personnel package and the opposing defense is going to come out in their base personnel, whether it be 3-4, 4-3, and they're going to match up to make sure that if you run the ball with 2 tight ends, and Josh Jacobs in this case, that they've got the 7 front players that they need to stop the run. Other teams might come out in a big nickel. They could go with 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, a safety in that slot position, 2 outside corners, and 2 safeties. and then in two deep safeties, I should say. And then the other is that they just go in a smaller nickel, where you've got the same thing we just said, except a corner in the slot instead of a safety. All of those are viable options against that group. And depending on the personnel that you actually have, if you've got some corners that are more physical and can play it, you can do that. If you've got a defensive group of 6, meaning 4 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers, a defensive front that can hold up at the point of attack with 6, and you don't need that linebacker as the 7th guy, you can do that. You could drop a safety into the box. So you've got 7 in the box, still a safety over the top, 2 outside corners, a corner in the slot, and you still have numbers in the box, but now you've only got the 1 deep safety. But if you've got the right 1 deep safety, like a Xavier McKinney, for example, you can get away with that a lot. All different ways to do it. But if you're Green Bay, you have the ability to say, okay, you came out in base personnel. Guess what? Gotcha. Luke Musgrave's actually a wide receiver. And you can use Luke Musgrave as a big slot. And he's more than capable of being a big slot. Now, he's got to work his way into that. We did not see the same Luke Musgrave a season ago, dealt with injuries, was not consistent. And we just haven't seen that high-end upside from Musgrave the way that we were hoping as a second-round pick coming out of college. I still wholeheartedly believe that it's there, but we need to see it actually come to fruition. But if he can show that he can do that, now they're in base defense. You've got your 2 wide receivers on the outside, in this case, Wicks and Golden, or Wicks and Watson, or whoever you want on the outsides. Musgrave's your 3rd wide receiver, basically, is a big slot in the slot package, or in the slot spot. And then you've got Jacobs in the backfield, Kraft at tight end. And you feel really good still that if you want, you can run the ball. That's why I wanted Wicks out there, because he's such a great blocker, and Watson out there because he's such a great blocker. So you could still run the ball even if they are in a base personnel. But now you feel really good that you have 2 wide receivers out wide. You can even put Musgrave out wide and see how they respond to that, with like a Christian Watson in the slot, or a Wicks in the slot and the other on the outside. So many different ways that you could go with it. The other thing is that Kraft and Jacobs are good enough as well, where you could go 5 wide in that situation. Oh, you're in base? We're going to spread you out. We're going to go 5 wide. We're going to get the ball out of Jordan's hands and let these guys do the work on the outsides. And we have 2 wide receivers out there. Kraft and Musgrave are more than capable, and Jacobs is capable of running routes. Like, you can almost feel good with that as a option as well. And the other thing that you can do, especially if Christian Watson's in this, you can have Wicks out wide. You can have Kraft and Musgrave at tight end. We've also seen them use that wide receiver that's almost like offset as an H-back. Christian Watson can do that as well. And then you've got Jacobs in the backfield. Now think of that. And if they come out in a small nickel package, where they've got the true 3 corners, 2 safeties, and a 7-man box, 6-man box, excuse me. If they do something like that, now you've got the ability to potentially run on them, or even when it looks like you're going to go run, now maybe they drop their safeties down. Now you go play action. If you've got Watson, either coming out, maybe he's running a wheel, or maybe Wicks can get open on a, pump and go, whatever the case may be. Now you've got some opportunities to throw down the field. So this opportunity to use a 12 personnel package that really can be 5 wide. You could go 4 wide with it, with a running back in the backfield. You can go 2 tight ends. You can go a tight end, use Musgrave as a, again, big slot wide receiver. You can do so many different things with that grouping. And that's why I love it, is because if they come out small, you can look big. If they come out big, you can look small or fast, however you want to define it. But there's just so many different things that you can do. And it doesn't matter what package they come out with, you have opportunities to counter. And that's what I really like about that package, and I think could be very successful for Green Bay. But Musgrave is going to have to be a big piece of that, and hopefully he can have a really big 2025 year. The next one, I love this one so much. For those of you who don't know, back in the day, the Packers ran with Ahman Green at running back behind an offensive line and a 6th offensive lineman in Kevin Berry, and it would be called the U71 or the U-Bacon formation. And I sat at, my season tickets are in the north end zone. I sat in the north end zone. There was a guy who in my section wore a number 71 Kevin Berry jersey. And every time Kevin Berry checked into the game, he would stand up and go, "You bacon." And that was his shtick. Good, cool for him, right? The Packers have the ability to pull in number 71 Kevin Berry, by the way, was a mammoth human being. Now they've got another mammoth human being wearing number 71. You've got Anthony Belton, who's probably not going to be a starter in year one. And yes, you have the ability to bring back U71, U Bacon. I'm going Josh Jacobs in the backfield. I am going Tucker Kraft and Anthony Belton as my tight ends. I'm going to go another one with Luke Musgrave. And then I'm going a speedy wide receiver, whether it's Golden or Christian Watson or whoever you want, McCole Hardman, I don't even care. I'm going a speedy wide receiver out wide, sending him down the field as a decoy or sending him in motion horizontally as a decoy, whichever one that you want to use. I've got Musgrave and Kraft lined up to one side as double tight ends, Anthony Belton on the other side. Again, Josh Jacobs in the backfield. And you bet I'm running the football and I'm coming right at your face. And Anthony Belton's going to move some people. And I'm really excited about it. So I want it, whether it's on goal line situations, whether it's on fourth and short, of course we could see some Tucker Kraft sneak stuff out of that as well if you wanted to, but either way, I want to see that sixth offensive lineman. I think Anthony Belton would be really fun to utilize in that situation. And he is wearing the number 71. So give it back to me. I want you Bacon, but with Anthony Belton this time around instead of Kevin Berry. Next up is a 5 wide set. 5 wide, you have to be a little bit careful with. Teams defensively in the NFL have found ways to counteract 5 wide pretty well. What they tend to like to do is you've got 5 offensive linemen, a quarterback, and 5 receivers, right? So they can go kind of press man 5-on-5, have a safety over the top. They've got 6 guys in coverage. And then you're just basically bringing, you've got your front 4 and then you're bringing a guy off the edge usually. And it makes it get rid of the ball quick. They're playing press man, so you can't get rid of the ball quick. And it's difficult sometimes to counteract that. But I still think that you can use this in certain situations, maybe not spam it by any means, but throw it out there, see how the other team responds. All of a sudden, you've got 5 wides in Matthew Golden, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. You can put Savion Williams out there for now or McCole Hardman out there for now, but eventually with a Christian Watson as well. Here's the other, actually, I'm going to take this back. I'm going to even add another layer to this. So I'm going to go Golden, Wicks, Reed, Doubs, and Savion Williams in this situation, okay? The thing that I love about this, you're coming out in 5 wides. I want to see how the opposing team matches up. Are they just going to go zone? Are they going to come out with 5 corners to match you? But here's the cool thing about this personnel group. I can put Savion Williams in the backfield. I'm going to put him at running back. Screw it. I'm coming out 5 wides. I'm going to see how they respond. And if they are super light, maybe they go a dime or whatever, I'm motioning Williams into the backfield. Maybe I just use him as a decoy. Maybe he picks up a blitz. Maybe I'm going to run a running back screen to him. Who knows? But he's a very interesting and fun just sort of piece that you can do so many different things with. And I'm going to come out 5 wide where it looks like I don't have any running back as an option. I have no tight end. I'm going to spread out 4 wide and put Savion Williams in the backfield. That's fun. Or I can just go 5 wide and just find the matchup that I like the most. Or if I can tell they're in zone, try to figure out, again, if I can get a tell, and if it's 2, 3, 4, meaning cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, and figure out if I can, pick a cover 2 beater, a 3 beater, a 4 beater to get into a great person or a great look offensively and hopefully, complete something easy, get the ball in the hands of my playmakers. Usually with 5 wide, what you're trying to accomplish is a quick 3 or 5 step drop, get rid of the ball, let your players do the heavy lifting. And I think with the playmakers that you have in this offense, you could do something like that. Like I said, you could motion Savion into the backfield. You can even go like a play action. And with a bigger offensive line, if they come out really light, heck, just hand it to him. See what he can do. And I don't hate that idea either. So I think there are some very fun things that you could do with a true 5 wide personnel package because you can put Savion Williams in the backfield and let him do some very fun stuff there as well. Same sort of thought here, a 10 personnel package. So 4 wide receivers and a running back. And in this case, you've got Golden, Wicks, Reed, and Doubs with Josh Jacobs in the backfield. The reason that I like this too, and that I think this could be a real viable option for Green Bay, is you do have this bigger, more physical offensive line now. And you could even bring in, by the way, I don't think it's impossible that Green Bay might mix and match their offensive line a little bit. You give me Jordan Morgan at left tackle with Banks at left guard, Jenkins at center, Anthony Belton at right guard, and then Zach Tom at right tackle, something like that. I feel really confident that I'm going to be able to run the football if they come out in like a dime personnel package to go against my 4 wides. And I got Josh Jacobs with a huge offensive line in front of me. and everyone else spread out wide, I'm just going to run at that thing. I don't need to throw the ball. I think normally would think of a 4 wide receiver set as a passing formation. In this case, it's not. You're basically spreading those corners out wide to get more space on the interior. And by doing so, you're just going to say, hey, we think we can move your guys up front. And we've got Josh Jacobs who can move the pile as well and, pick up 3, 4, 5 yards per carry. So I actually like a 10 personnel package as a running package with Josh Jacobs in that big offensive line. The next one, don't anyone get too crazy here, okay? You have to promise me before I go over this one, we're not getting too crazy. I'm talking about a handful of plays on the season here, okay? The Malik Willis package. Yes, I do think it should exist. And I do think that there is a very fun way to utilize a play that they use a lot, but with Malik Willis at quarterback. All right. The play that we talk about a lot is that pony personnel package. And you've got usually, like a tight end and a wide receiver out wide. So you can, in an ideal world, you probably want like Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson out wide to the right. I got to make sure I got my right personnel here. All right. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So 2 wide receivers out wide on the right, maybe like a Matthew Golden out wide to the left, and then Josh Jacobs and Jaden Reed in the backfield. Okay. So it looks like an 11 personnel package. You've got a running back, a tight end, 3 wide receivers, but a tight end and a blocking wide receiver are out wide to the right. I've got a running back and a receiver in the backfield, and then a speed wide receiver in Matthew Golden, or just even Dontavian Wicks would actually be really good on this outside as well. And what you're doing here is you are reading the play pre and post snap. First of all, what Green Bay would do back in the day with Devontae Adams is if Devontae Adams would get a one-on-one on that outside, they might take that shot either down the field or just let Devontae beat that corner one-on-one clean, and he's going to pick up the easy first down or whatever it is you need. So if Matthew Golden is as advertised and you get him matched up one-on-one in a favorable matchup, you might just say, screw it, we're running a play, and he gets that one-on-one and has the opportunity to win it. If he wins it, great. If not, you probably have a check down somewhere else, right? That's number one as an option, at least. The next thing is you have this situation, we know this play very well, where you've got like Jaden Reed and Josh Jacobs in the backfield, and Reed is going to go out in motion, and now he's going to go out behind 2 great blockers and Christian Watson and Tucker Kraft to the right, okay? And this is, again, a numbers thing. All right, so if you see that maybe there's a safety over the top of Golden or you don't feel comfortable with the matchup, all right, you ignore that one. Now Reed goes in motion, and now you're just counting, okay? So if you've got, 3, defenders over there and they're in good position and they can make that stop on the play, all right, or even if they've got the 3 and then a guy over the top, all right, we're not going to throw that. We don't need to do that anymore. So we're not going to throw, we're going to use that side as a decoy. And now what happens is you've got, maybe your wide receiver covered over there. You've maybe got 4 guys over there that are trying to stop that little bubble action. So you've got maybe 4 or 5 guys accounted for. You've got a 6-man box, right? And you've got 5 offensive linemen, a running back, and a quarterback that can run. And now this becomes interesting. So you don't like your numbers to the right. You don't like your matchup to the left. Now you can let that edge rusher crash down. You can leave that one guy unblocked, go super physical blocking everyone else, have a numbers advantage there. And now you can go true read option with Malik Willis. And if that defensive end crashes down and goes with Josh Jacobs, you have Malik Willis free for days. All right. So that's an easy read. He's going to pick up 10, 12 yards on that play, at least. The next is, if that defensive end stays with Malik Willis and says, oh crap, they could throw that little, bubble out to Jaden Reed, or he could run the ball. I need to stay as is. Now you've got just the most advantageous running opportunity for Josh Jacobs with that big offensive line pushing downhill, and they don't have the numbers to match it. So you're just literally doing math equations in real time of like, and just again, going through the options. Do I like my one-on-one on the outside? Nope. Okay. Does Jaden Reed have numbers? He does. Or like I have good numbers with Jaden Reed. I can throw it. They've only got 2 guys, or maybe even 3, but the guy's far off. And Kraft and Watson are going to pick up their blocks, and Reed's going to get an easy 6 yards on that. We'll take that. And if that's all covered up, they got 4 guys over there. Now you do a true read option. Jordan can do this as well. And we've seen this play run with Aaron and Jordan. You don't even necessarily need the read option piece of it, but adding that 4th wrinkle to that entire play, I think is going to be something that could theoretically have a ton of success with it. And I would like to see it run from time to time, if I'm being honest. And I think that the crazy thing about that play is I think that the other team could even know that it's coming because they've done this so much. I don't even think it matters. Like, you're literally just like, there's not a great way to defend everything. There just isn't. And if they check every box, you don't like the matchup with Golden. They've got a good corner over there. They've got the numbers on the outside, and they somehow figure out a way to stop the run. All right, we'll just stop running that play then. But I do think that can be a fun formation, personnel package, and just play that they could go to with Malik Willis actually at quarterback and using his legs for good in that situation to either hold that defensive end or to run right around him. Next up is my need for speed / NASCAR package on offense. Usually we think about a NASCAR package on defense, but I want a little bit of speed on offense. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going Marshawn Lloyd at running back. I'm going Luke Musgrave at tight end, and I'm going Matthew Golden, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed at wide receiver. If you want to put McCole Hardman in there for somebody, sure, go for it. Either way, you've just got pure unadulterated speed on the field. And first of all, I feel like I can pretty much run my offense. I've got a running back or, a tight end, 3 wide receivers. And if Watson's in there, I still got a good blocker at wide receiver, and Musgrave's more than capable of getting in the way. But this is another one where you just have pure unadulterated speed on the field and just let Jordan get rid of the ball, make some easy completions, and let those guys hopefully get some yards after the catch with all their great speed. So, usually you maybe want to stay a little bit balanced, but you know what? In some cases, it's just really nice to have that crazy speed out on the field. And that would be a really fun way to get a ton of speed on the field all at once. And then last but not least, this is just a random fun one. I do kind of want to see a Savion Williams Wildcat package. Motion Love out to wide receiver on one side, just utilize him as a dummy. You've got Kraft, at tight end. You've got Watson and Wicks as your true wide receivers, your 2 best blocking wide receivers. And then I'm going to put Chris Brooks in the backfield with Savion, because with Chris Brooks, you can use him as a blocker as well. So if you just want to run power with Savion Williams and you go behind maybe Kraft and use Chris Brooks as like a fullback, maybe bring I'll say like Christian Watson or Dontavian Wicks in motion, fake a read that way, and then run power the other way. There's some fun stuff that you could do with that as well. We're not going to dig into it too much. Again, we're talking maybe 1 to 3 plays per season here, but I do think he's talented enough to utilize him in that role. He also has a huge arm. So if they don't honor something, you could have him throw a little bit down the field. But for me, I think there are some fun things that you could do with Savion Williams in that role. So on offense, a classic 12 personnel package with Kraft and Musgrave at tight end, a U Bacon with Anthony Belton at tight end, a 5 wide set, a 10 personnel package to run the football, a Malik Willis package, a Savion Williams Wildcat package, and a speed package on offense. All right, let's get to the defensive side of the ball. I want a speed NASCAR package on defense too. So the ones that I love here are 1 defensive tackle, 5 stand-up linebackers, and then 5 defensive backs. And you can use your normal 5 defensive backs. We don't need to go into that. I want Devontae Wyatt. I think you can even have like Devontae Wyatt kind of roaming around a little bit. You could use Carl Brooks here as well, who would be very fun because you can even drop Brooks into coverage if you wanted. So yeah, anyone in that realm is fine. But Devontae Wyatt or Carl Brooks, I think, are probably your 2 best options. And then I have 5 linebackers standing up. And here's the fun thing. I'm going to go with Rashawn Gary just because I do want him out on the field. He still's got great athleticism, and I just want my best pass rusher out on the field. But I want my other 4 to be Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker, Isaiah Simmons, and Colin Oliver. And the cool thing here is that all 4 of those are capable off-ball linebackers. Like Colin Oliver has the ability to be an off-ball linebacker, dropping into coverage. And then we know Simmons, Quay, and Cooper are as well. And then you've got Rashawn Gary. So Wyatt and Gary are likely going to rush from somewhere, right? But Wyatt can be moving around. Gary can be moving around. And then you've got 4 other players in Cooper, Quay, Simmons, and Oliver who could all drop into coverage. They could all rush. You could do anything you want at any given moment. And I think that's the fun thing. And I think you could just do a basic, sort of rush, right? With like Colin Oliver and Rashawn Gary off the edge, Devontae Wyatt at defensive tackle, drop everyone else, just go with a standard 3-man rush. You could bring in Edgerrin Cooper, you could bring a Simmons, you could do a double A gap. Like you could do so many different things just utilizing that grouping. So again, Wyatt at defensive tackle or Carl Brooks if you wanted it to. kind of meandering around, and then Cooper, Quay, Simmons, Oliver, and Gary all standing up, all being able to come, all being able to drop in coverage. And you don't know which ones are coming, which ones are dropping. And there's some really fun speed in that group as well. Next up is a 3-3-5. So I'm going to go with Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, and LVN as my defensive ends, or defensive line, I should say. Kind of Clark as the nose, and then LVN and Wyatt as my defensive ends. And then Colin Oliver, Edgerrin Cooper, and Quay Walker as my linebackers. Now, here's the cool part about the 3-3-5 here. This 3-3-5 works in the way that Clark's kind of your nose, LVN and Wyatt are kind of your, inside guys, and then you've got Quay Walker and Colin Oliver as your sort of edge rushers. It kind of works as like a 5-1-5. And we've seen Green Bay work in a 5-man rush, but more in the Joe Barry era, but kind of those 5 guys up at the line. But it's kind of a fun way to both stop the run and, again, present different problems from a pass rush standpoint. And in this situation, like, you have kind of a true, what almost looks like a 3-4 defense just with one less linebacker. You can even drop a safety into that, and it will really look like a 3-4 defense. And in that situation, again, Wyatt and LVN are your defensive ends. Clark's your nose tackle. Oliver and Quay are your edge rushers on the outside. Cooper and your safety are your inside backers. It works like a 3-4. The other cool thing is that it really works as just a basic nickel defense too. If you want to bring Colin Oliver and drop LVN, all of a sudden, move LVN to the other side, you've got LVN and Colin Oliver as just your normal 4-3 defensive ends, right? With Wyatt and Clark as your normal defensive tackles, and Cooper and Quay as your nickel linebackers. So you've got 2 edge rushers, 2 defensive tackles, 2 linebackers, and you're good to go. You could just bring 3, Wyatt, LVN, and Clark, more on the interior, have 3 off-ball linebackers, and Quay, Cooper, and Oliver, all who are capable of playing off-ball linebacker, and then 5 defensive backs in the backfield as well. So just, again, Colin Oliver is actually a very unique piece to utilize here in a variety of different ways, because he does have that off-ball linebacker plus pass rush ability, which is very unique. And that's why I think there's some really fun things that you could do. But that 3-3-5 can look like a 3-4, can look like a 5-1, it can look like a 3-3-5, or it can just look like a very standard 4-2-5 nickel defense. A lot of varieties within it. Next up is a play that I talked about. This is less of a personnel grouping, more of just kind of an interesting play to kind of run. I talked about it in the Isaiah Simmons episode the other day, where the Giants twice this past year had Isaiah Simmons just lined up as a normal weak side linebacker, and he would screen back and play single high safety. I love this idea. He's capable of doing it. He played safety in college, and I'm not saying a bunch, but a handful of times this year, absolutely. And the cool part of this is it's the last thing that you're going to expect if you're a quarterback. So you've got all the different moving parts everywhere. You've got Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams back at safety. They're going to come up and play in the box. You can play like a cover 3 in this way, where your safeties come screaming up, or whether they're both robbers or however you want to utilize them. That's an interesting way to kind of look at it. You've got your corners playing the 2 deep zones on the outside, and now you've got Isaiah Simmons playing as your cover 3 safety. Like, it's just crazy. Or you could go man and have him like roaming the deep end and just try to get sideline to sideline. There's so many fun and unique things that you can do with that as well. So the Isaiah Simmons single high safety look, screaming back from linebacker as your safeties come up and just change the picture entirely for the quarterback, it's going to mess with some quarterbacks' minds. So I would love to see that as well. Next up is an inverted cover 2 and an inverted cover 2. All right, so what we saw last year in an inverted cover 2 is you will start with your corners on the outsides and then your safeties back deep. And what happens is your safeties come up, play the flats, your corners go back and play the deep halves of the field. And it inverts everything. And the reason that this kind of works, if you have the right corners for it, is you've got now 2 cover guys that are usually fast and able to cover, good portions of the field on the back end. And your safeties, in this case, Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney, are now up and have that ability to, if there's a run to the outside, or if you're going to do some sort of screen on the outside, all these sort of things, you've got now your physical players that are up closer to the line of scrimmage, which you certainly do not mind. And more importantly, it just really messed with quarterbacks as well. So I love this idea of playing that inverted cover 2. That's nothing new, but now what I think you could do potentially is do an inverted cover 2. And what I mean by that is you can start with Keyshawn Nixon and Nate Hobbs as your safeties, and Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney as your corners on the outside. And the quarterback might not even care, think much of it. But it would be a weird way to look out there. It'd be like, wow, they've got their safeties out as corners. Their corners are at safeties. And then you run the inverted cover 2, and all of a sudden you've got your corners at corner, your safeties back at safety, and you can almost mix and match that as well. So I just think there's some fun things that you could potentially mess with that, with just the the variety of things that you can do with your defensive backs and the versatility that all of those guys have. I think you could do some really fun stuff in that regard. Next up is a 3 safety dime look. And we've seen some 3 safety looks from Jeff Hafley. He seems to actually like it. So you've got Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, and LVN on the defensive front. Edgerrin Cooper as your lone linebacker. You could put Quay Walker there as well if you want. Hobbs in the slot, Nixon and Valentine on the outside. Then you've got a 3-man safety line across the top of Bullard, McKinney, and Williams. Well, we see this a lot in like a 3rd and 16. And you kind of have those 3 safeties marked at that like 16-yard marker, right? So they're going to be there. You're not going to hit left, right, or center. Those safeties are going to be waiting for you at that first down marker. You've got the 3 corners underneath to cover usually the 3 wide receivers. You've got Cooper roaming the middle of the field at linebacker, and you still have a 4-man rush in front of it. So I think that's something that would be a fun formation to work with a little bit. And I think it fits very, very well. And having Cooper there to kind of get everything in the middle of the field and those safeties being able to rally and tackle, you're going to keep everything in front of you. And if it's a 3rd and 16, they get 9-10 yards, you're fine with it. Just can't allow that 16 yards or even that 14 or 15 where they want to go for it on 4th down. That 3 safety look helps you make sure that you don't get it to that situation. Next up is just a pretty standard double A gap blitz. But I think, one of the cool formations here to go with is Isaiah Oliver and Rashawn Gary on the outsides, with Wyatt and Clark as defensive tackle, and then Cooper and Quay, showing that double A gap look. And why, again, I like Colin Oliver here is because you can drop Oliver into coverage, and he has the ability to be, again, like an off-ball linebacker, and you could bring 5 guys from the other side, all with one side, drop Oliver, kind of shift everything over, and it's going to be very tough on quarterbacks. His ability to drop back into coverage very naturally, I think, would serve him very well in that role. Or you can just drop Cooper and Quay out of that look, and you have 4 pass rushers coming with Rashawn Gary and Isaiah Oliver Colin Oliver in this case, working just as a true defensive end as a pass rush specialist. So again, very unique piece there in Colin Oliver. And I do think that double A gap look with him being on the outside just gives you a bit more versatility in dropping different guys into coverage that the quarterback in the offense may not be expecting. Last but not least is a true 3-4. Yeah, this is going to be a 4-3 defense or a nickel defense the vast majority of the time. But I do think there's some really fun 3-4 looks that you can still put out there, including Kenny Clark as a nose tackle, Wyatt and Brooks as defensive ends, Gary and LVN as your outside linebackers, and Cooper and Quay at linebacker. It fits very well. You still have the personnel pieces to do that. And we've heard from Matt LaFleur this offseason on a couple different occasions that he's talked about hiring DeMarcus Covington and his familiarity with different fronts. And that could mean some 3-4, some 4-6, some barefoot, like all different sort of stuff that you potentially want to do. I think is out there. And I would not surprise me if every once in a while, maybe Green Bay dabbled just a little bit, and maybe some 3-4 looks. So those are all defensively some ones that I think could be really, really fun. Again, a NASCAR defense with 1 defensive tackle and 5 linebackers standing up, a 3-3-5 that is basically an amoeba that can do so many different things. Isaiah Simmons screaming back and playing some single high safety, an inverted cover 2 and an inverted cover 2, a 3 safety dime look, a double A gap blitz with Colin Oliver on the edge, but that could potentially drop out, and then a true 3-4 defense because you still have some of the carryovers from that Joe Barry era. All right, that is going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed these different looks at the offensive and defensive personnel packages and groups that you could put out there this year. Let me know your favorite on offense, your favorite on defense. Would love to know both of those. That's going to do it for me for now. Shout out to our All-Pro and Hall of Fame members, Mo Saden, Minnesotan, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Wong, Peter Rataka, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Puerto Rican Packer, Dan Gessford, Dylan Patscott, SoCal Pack, Chris Rager, Izzy Roberts, Ian Ewing, Jay Koner, Carlo Delgado, Willie Winkle-Stinkle, Jen Wright, The Gable Storm, Matt Geiger, Pack Attack Cast, and Chris Weish. I'll see you guys tomorrow, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.